Well, hey there, guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're making a Tart Tamper. Well, what on earth is a Tart Tamper? What a Tart Tamper is a certain device when making pastries or making the shells for tarts that allows you to push into the pan of your tart in against your dough, your pastry dough, and form the tart shells. It's a really simple project with very little tools needed, very little experience, very little material, but it's a great gift idea. So let's head over to the bench and I'll show you what I have in mind. Well, this project starts off with some scraps of poplar in this case. It can be any species you'd like. You just want a hardwood with a tight grain, something like maple, cherry, poplar, that sort of thing. So I have two blanks. One here is 13/16 of an inch thick, and this one here is 1 3/16 of an inch thick, and they are both cut to 2.5 by 2.5 inches. So what I've done is I've marked the center on each one of our blanks, and on the thicker one, the 1 3/16, I'm going to use my compass here, and I'm going to set it to draw a circle that is 2¼ inches in diameter. Okay, and then on our thinner blank, our 13/16 blank, we're going to draw the same thing, except this diameter is going to be 1½ inches. All right, so at this point you should have two blanks that look like this. So at this point, we're going to head over to the drill press. Okay, so what I have here at the drill press is I have a 1/2 inch diameter drill bit installed, and I have center punched both of our blanks in that center mark that was left by our compass. And in each one of the blanks, I'm going to drill this 1/2 inch diameter hole deep enough that it goes almost to the bottom of each of our blanks, but not so deep that it comes out the other side. So you can drill it as deep as you want, but just don't drill it through. And with both of our blanks drilled, we can head over to the scroll saw. Well, over here at the scroll saw, we need to tilt our blade. So what I want to do is I want to tilt this blade 12 degrees. To the left or to the right doesn't matter. Now, some of you out there, your whole table will tilt. My saw, the blade tilts. And this measurement is not imperative. Just get it close. So in this case, I've got some setup blocks here, and we're just going to get it to our 12 degrees, just like that. And we're going to tighten it down. Now, what you want to do, guys, you need to pay attention here depending on which way you tilted it, because this measurement here of our circle, the one that we did for 2¼ inches, I believe this one is, we need that to be the widest part of this. We're going to cut this on an angle. So depending on how you cut this, if you cut it clockwise, around this way, we can see that the blade is like this. It's going to cut wider at the bottom. So for this, we want to cut it counterclockwise. In other words, we're turning our piece clockwise. We're actually cutting counterclockwise. So depending on which way you want this to be, you need to decide which way you're cutting it, either clockwise or counterclockwise. It's important to pay attention to that. So for this, I'm actually going to do a real-time cutting just to show you how long this takes with such a thick piece of stock at 1 3/16 of an inch. If you're not interested in the full-time cutting, I'm going to put the time signature right down here where you can skim ahead and skip to after it gets cut. Okay, and there is our larger one cut. Now guys, I have purposely cut outside the line, and we're going to get to that as to the reason why in just a little bit. But we now need to do the exact same thing with our thinner blank, our blank at 13/16 of an inch thick. The only difference is I'm going to cut this one at a 21-degree angle, making sure that the top circle that we drew at 1.5 inches in diameter is the largest part of our cutting. And again, we're going to cut it outside the lines. There we go. There is our second one cut. Now, this one as well, just cut outside the lines. Now, guys, I can already hear the questions, so I'm going to show you before you ask about my angle blocks. Now, this is something I picked up years ago from Lee Valley. I don't know if they still sell them, but these things are spectacular. And what it is a full set of stainless steel angle blocks at different angles, precision angles. This one here is a 30-degree block. And these are for measuring, setting up tools, and you can add them together to get the different angles. So this here is 30 degrees, this one's 15. Put the two of them together and you get 45 degrees. So they are for setting up tools, but I've also used them for measuring on plans. If I wasn't sure if a measurement or an angle wasn't provided, I've used these to verify those angles. It's also an absolute asset when it comes to doing models or making models. But what if you don't have a set like this? Can you still do this project? 100% you can. Guys, we know that the travel on the scroll saw is 2 inches. That's the maximum cut or the maximum thickness of a cut that you can do. So this is a scrap of 1/4-inch hardboard cut 1.5 inches wide. The length really doesn't matter. And over at the table saw, I've cut one side using my miter fence at 21 degrees, the other side at 12. These are the angles that we need for this project. And then you can just use this like an angle guide over at the scroll saw to set the angle of the blade to whatever it is that you need. And guys, you can always do this for any project. If you need to set a specific angle and you have a half-decent miter gauge, cut yourself a piece of scrap and make yourself your own little setup block. I mean, it's a piece of scrap. It would probably end up in the garbage eventually anyway, so why not get some use out of it? And in fact, we're going to use this for the next part of the project, and that ends up bringing us over to the belt sander. All right, so over here at the belt sander, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our cut gauge here, or if you have those angle gauges, you can use those. And I'm going to loosen off my table, and we're going to set this to our 12 degrees. And then very carefully, we're going to hold our finger right here in the middle, and we're going to rotate this using our finger as an axle, and we will sand it up to the line at the 12-degree angle. And with the larger of the two discs now sanded, we can reset the angle of the working table of our belt sander, change it to our 21 degrees using our shop-made angle guide, and then sand the smaller one until it's the larger diameter of 1.5 inches. And once you get that done, you can head back over to the bench. And now with those both shaped and their final size, we can now use our sandpaper on MDF to sand the top and bottom surfaces as well. We're going to give it a good hand sanding and just take off any of the sharp, crisp edges around the upper and the lower edges of each one of our discs. Well, it's sanded up and we have the flat surfaces smooth, but we do have some lines here from the belt sander. And guys, that's inevitable, especially when you're using a belt sander at like 80 grit. So let me just show you what you can do about that. I have a little piece here of a plastic bag. It's just like a piece of a sandwich bag kind of a thing. And I have a section of 1/2-inch dowel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this in here and just tap it down into place. And that bag is going to fill any gaps and give it a nice tight friction fit. From there, guys, we're going to chuck this up in the drill. Now you can do it by hand with a hand drill like this, or you can do it in your drill press. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to gently sand the outside edge. And we'll repeat the process with both discs. Well, with that now done, we need to add the handle. Now, guys, I've taken a measurement of each one of our holes and added them together, and then added 3 1/8 of an inch to that. And what that will do is give us a distance between these two at 3 1/8. It's not really an imperative measurement, but you know what? It's an approximation if you want to get it around there, or whatever is comfortable to you. This seems to be a good distance to be able to hold it and tamp your tarts. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of wood glue into each one of our holes, and I'm going to glue our 1/2 inch diameter dowel into the holes on each one of our tamper ends. And with that, that is our tamper done. So essentially the way that you use this, I can't demonstrate it obviously, I don't have any pastry out here in the shop, but you would lay your pastry over top of, say, your tart pan or your muffin pan, whether it be a small tart or a larger tart, and this gets pushed down into the bottom of your tart pan, I guess we'll say, or if you're using the foil tart cups or foil tart containers, that gets pushed down inside, whether they're the large or the small, and it forms your pastry to the inside to form your tart. And then once you get it formed, you can hold this in place and slice off the excess around the tart tamper, and you're done with it. So there you go, a tart tamper. Simple project, but honest to goodness, if you know someone who's a baker, guys, what a great gift. And there you have it, tart tampers. Guys, this project is a scrap wood dream. If you know somebody that likes baking, or even someone who's just getting into baking and doesn't really have a lot of the accessories or the tools sort of thing, this is a great way to use up scrap. It's a great little gift, a stocking stuffer, just because you're my friend and I love you gift. It can be for any reason, but it is so quick. I made a couple of these and they roughly take about 30 minutes a piece to make. They would be quicker to make if you did them in a production style setup, where you had all your blanks already cut, all your dowels already cut, did all your drilling in one step, etc., etc. You could make a ton of these in a day if you wanted to, but they are a fantastic way to kill time while you're waiting for glue to dry, while you're waiting for paint to dry, finishes to dry, whatever. While you're just nothing better to do for the afternoon, go out and bang one of these off in 30 minutes. It's just a fun way to kill some time, use some scrap, and get an actual usable project out of it. So simple and easy to do. Now, I was considering doing this on the lathe, but I have had so many requests for scroll saw projects lately. I haven't done any scroll saw work here on the show in a while, other than the odd little thing. But this one here is pretty much all scroll and sanding work. So I was going to do it on the lathe, but then I thought, you know what? This really lends itself to the scroll saw very well. And with that handmade or shop-made angle guide to set up your blade, it's so easy to do. There's no specialty tools required. You could even do this on the bandsaw by tilting your table at those angles and cut the circles roughly and then sand them over at the belt sander. You don't even need the scroll saw, which is a great thing. Guys, what about a coating on these? Now, I'm a little torn. Part of me says that this is dealing with food and we have woods, but the woods are closed grain. There's not a lot in pastry that can go rancid. So, you know, do you need to seal it? You know, it's kind of that debate. Any of these things that I've ever seen from the commercial aspect from buying them from stores. They're always bare wood, but if you really wanted to, I guess you could put a cutting board coating on it. My only concern with that, my only concern is that with the cutting board coating, it's not always 100% dry. And because it's not 100% dry, you're dealing with a product being pastry that there's flour involved. As soon as you introduce flour to some kind of moisture, some kind of liquid, even though it's not, say, like water, what do you get? You get paste, and that paste really gums up. So while you could, if you really wanted to, I would suggest just leaving it bare wood. And worst case scenario, that this thing gets contaminated somehow during a tart making session, take 30 minutes and bang off another one, or give several of them to the recipient so that they've got backups. Either way, guys, it's a great project, a load of fun, a fantastic way to kill some time at the scroll saw or the bandsaw, a fantastic way to use up some scrap stock, and a great gift for your friends who love baking. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you've enjoyed the program. I hope that this is kind of giving you some ideas as to some of the projects that you can make. Not everything has to be like a shelf or a decorative piece or that sort of thing. Some of them can be very viable tools that you use around the house. If you haven't already, if you found any part of today's show likable, interesting, fun, informative, you know what, guys, why not like and subscribe to the channel? We have an amazing audience base here, and I'm hoping that you're going to consider becoming a part of that. I want to thank you again for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the project. I hope you're going to give this one a try for yourself. I hope that if you're a baker, you're going to send me some of your tarts. And more importantly, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video. Oh, I could go for some butter tarts right about now. Ooh, love me some butter tarts.